All right, welcome everyone to Chapter 6 of our AI Fundamentals series. We're about to dive into neural networks. But before we get into the nuts and bolts, the how it all works part, we really need to tackle the elephant in the room, the crazy amount of hype surrounding AI. So for this first session, let's just clear the air, okay? Let's separate the science fiction from the actual incredible reality. Let's jump in. You see it every single day, right? We are just bombarded with these totally conflicting messages about AI. Is it this beautiful dream that's going to solve all of our problems, or is it a complete nightmare just waiting around the corner? One headline promises a golden age, and the very next one is warning of an absolute catastrophe. It's confusing. So what's the real story here?
The whole public conversation it's totally dominated by these two extremes. You've got the Utopians over here telling us that AI is going to cure every disease, end world hunger, solve basically everything. And then on the complete opposite side, you've got the Doomsayers, right? The ones telling us AI is the end of humanity, the final chapter. And guess what? These super simple, really dramatic messages, they get all the clicks, all the headlines.
This quote right here brings a much-needed dose of reality to the whole discussion. Look, as scientists, we have to be honest with ourselves and with you. Predicting the future is one of the hardest things anyone can try to do. So when you hear someone speaking with 100% certainty about what AI is going to do, a little bit of skepticism is probably a very healthy thing. The truth is, the future is just way too complex for simple, easy answers.
So how in the world do we cut through all this noise? I want to give you two really powerful mental models that'll help you evaluate these big, bold predictions. And we're going to start with an idea from the political scientist Philip Tetlock about foxes and hedgehogs.
So Tetlock basically splits people into two groups, hedgehogs and foxes. Hedgehogs, he says, have one big idea that they use to explain, everything. Their message is simple, it's dramatic, and it's perfect for a headline. Foxes, on the other hand, pull from lots of different small ideas. They have a much more nuanced, more balanced view of the world. And what Tetlock's research found is that the foxes are consistently better at long-term prediction. So our advice? Try to be a fox. Seek out the foxes.
Okay, the second mental model is all about historical context. And this is so important because, we have been here before. More than once, actually. AI has gone through these massive hype cycles. You look back at the 1960s and everyone thought neural networks were going to solve everything. But then that huge boom was followed by what we call an AI winter, a period of total disappointment, where all the funding just vanished. And then it happened again in the 1980s with something called expert systems. So seeing this pattern, this up and down cycle, it really helps us put today's boom into perspective, doesn't it?
So, if we push aside the utopian dreams for a second, and we ignore the doomsday fears, and we remember these historical hype cycles, what does AI actually look like today? Let's try to build a more realistic, down-to-earth picture.
Modern AI isn't really about creating some kind of supermind. It's much more about practical problem solving. It focuses on these narrow, very well-defined tasks. It completely sidesteps the giant philosophical questions about consciousness. Instead, it just builds tools that can handle the messiness and the uncertainty of the real world. This is the AI that's literally all around you already, powering your recommendation engines, processing images, and making a real tangible difference in fields from medicine all the way to history.
Okay, now we have to talk about it. The other elephant in the room. The single most persistent, most famous idea about the future of AI, the Terminator. The killer robot with the glowing red eyes. It's an incredibly powerful image, for sure. But is it a future we actually need to be worried about?
When you boil it all down, the Doomsday narrative usually comes in one of two flavors. First, you've got the classic Skynet story. An AI just wakes up, becomes conscious, and for some reason decides it really doesn't like humanity. The second one's a little more subtle. It's called the paperclip maximizer. The idea is an AI is given a totally harmless goal, like make paperclips, but it becomes so insanely intelligent that it turns the entire planet, including us, into raw materials just to make more paperclips.
These stories make for fantastic movies, no doubt about it. But the really critical question we have to ask ourselves is, are they based in reality? Is this a logical conclusion of the actual technology that we are building today?
The truth is, these scenarios require a massive leap of faith. For one thing, the tools we're building today are all forms of narrow AI. There is simply no known path for an image classifier to just spontaneously wake up. Secondly, this idea of a singularity, where an AI improves itself at this exponential rate forever, it's pretty unrealistic. Progress always slows down as problems get harder. And finally, as AI gets more powerful, our ability to manage it and control it, well, that gets better right alongside it.
So, at the end of the day, the Terminator is what you might call a red herring. It's a great story, it gets a ton of clicks, but it's a distraction. It pulls all of our attention away from the real and, yeah, sometimes kind of boring conversations we need to be having about AI's impact on our society right now. Things like bias in algorithms or the future of work.
And that brings us right back to the focus of this course. Now that we've hopefully separated the sci-fi story from the scientific reality, we can finally turn our attention to what actually matters.
So with the whole killer robot myth put to one side, what's left? What can the neural networks we're about to study actually do? How are they already changing our world as we speak? That is the real story. That's what we need to focus on. And that is exactly what we're going to explore in the rest of this chapter. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next part.